To you. Can you please start the session?
Yes, Ramesh. Good morning, all. I'm Abhirami from Youth for Jobs Foundation, in charge of Karnataka State. We are happy to welcome all of you for the inauguration of Youth for Jobs Able Plus College Connect program in Bengaluru. The program was initiated 2 years ago with an aim to improve the skills and employment opportunities of graduates with disabilities. Now it has its presence in 11 locations in 6 states across India. Karnataka has many graduate candidates with disability and also has employment opportunities in various sectors, with Bangalore being the hub. So the scope for connecting candidates with employers is huge here, and hence we are in Bangalore. We are supported by JP Morgan and SVP Bangalore chapter. For the inauguration, we have eminent personalities from banking, IT, ITES, and manufacturing sectors as speakers, panelists, and participants. We welcome all of you. We also have educators and students as participants. We welcome you all. Please feel free to post your queries in the chat box for any clarifications. Now, I would request Ramesh, the program manager of Able Plus College Connect, to speak about the program. Over to you, Ramesh.
Thank you so much, Abhirami. Good morning and a warm welcome to our chief guests, panelists, and all the participants of the program. We are excited. You can see it on my face, that excitement that I have, and thank you so much for joining us today. And we are excited to have dignitaries from government, educational institution, and corporates with us today for the launch of the flagship for jobs Able Plus College Connect in Bengaluru, which is one of our dreams actually. According to a recent report by World Bank and NCPEDP, there are approximately 70 million people with disabilities in India, of which 35 million are in the employable age group. Only 4% of these make it into the organized sector workforce today. So through Able Plus College Connect, our focus is to make employment possible for these graduates and thereby move up the number of graduated PWDs in the formal sector workforce. This is our dream, and we have earmarked some of the key sectors in which that we want our graduate candidates to be there. So the main driver for this program success is the interest shown and the efforts taken by the corporates and some of the government sectors to be truly inclusive. Our heartfelt thanks for all of them. A youth with disability must overcome many external roadblocks, which makes life seem more treacherous and challenging as compared to the actual disability itself. Able Plus College Connect model involves working with all the stakeholders who are either responsible for these roadblocks or who can help banish them, starting with self, family, PR group, educators, employers, and government as well. So how does our model work? It's very interesting journey that we had the past 2 years and 3 months. It has evolved nicely from actually a placement support provider, systems changer over the past 2.5 years. So now a brief about the 5-pillar program that deals with the different stakeholders. I would like to share my screen here. So it has evolved nicely over the period, and so the pillars of the program, it deals with different stakeholders and enablers in ensuring economic independence of people with disabilities and be a systems changer in this field. The pillar 1 talks about educational institutions tie-up. We work from colleges, college campuses. We begin with counseling the youth and the parents. We make them believe in possibilities by showcasing the success stories and showing them various career options that they can pursue. We help them deal with their inherent fears about the future during these sessions as well. Our training interventions actually improves their skills and help them compete with others on equal grounds. We work with teachers in creating a nurturing environment for the youth to stay and perform through our smart inclusion centers in the campuses. The pillar 2 is learning solutions partnerships. Under this, we have tied up with domain skills partners in three key areas of specialization, starting from finance and accounting, then IT, and then the BFSI to add skills to the PWDs and get them ready for the industry. And the pillar 3 is the employer collaboration. We are working with the corporates on internships, for internships, mentoring, campus interviews, and also we are trying a new pattern called source, hire, train, and deploy model. This pillar is very key to our success, and we believe a city like Bengaluru and a network like SVP will really add strength to our program in this area. We are ever ready to work with interested employers in kickstarting their employee through readiness audit or sensitization workshop or rolling. The pillar 4 is the knowledge center. We have partnered with BSCs and Boston Consulting Group and Deloitte in building knowledge base around the PWDs that can be leveraged by people and agencies working in this sector. Under pillar 5, it's government partnerships. We work with these officers in the Commissioner of Disability for necessary support that they provide to us. I'm happy to share with all that this model has really worked, and through this program, so far we have placed 645 graduates till June 2020 across various sectors, predominantly in BFSI, ITS, IT, manufacturing, retail, and hospitality industries. Given the pandemic we are dealing with, we have taken candidates who have graduated in the recent past for our first batch in Bengaluru. This should help accelerate our program outcomes until the colleges reopen. Our plan for this year in Bengaluru is to train and offer employment opportunities for 90 graduates in IT, ITES, BFSI, and manufacturing sectors. For this purpose, we intend to collaborate with 5 colleges and at least 20 employers. And I'm sure we can do it with everyone's support with a note. I'm sure that we can do it with everyone's support. And with that note, I would like to end my briefing and request Silky, who's our Corporate Connect head, the interface between the colleges and the corporate, to talk about College Connect program. Over to you, Silky.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Ramesh. A very good morning to all of you, and thank you once again for joining us today. Ramesh, can you put up the PPT, please?
Yes, sure.
Meanwhile, we see the slides. Before I give an overview about the Corporate Connect program, I want to talk a little bit about the need of this program. When we set out on a mission of skilling and placing youth with disabilities, we hit a major roadblock when we approached companies to hire our youth. Companies shared several concerns ranging from, are they healthy enough to be working with non-disabled workers, to what roles can they perform in a workplace, to do costs outweigh the benefits of hiring these youth? We realized that we'll need to work with companies on 2 things. 1, help them see the abilities and disabilities. And 2, for those who saw this ability and understood the business case of hiring, will need the know-how of how to go about it. This gap led to the genesis of Corporate Connect program. The objective of this program is to help companies prepare for onboarding youth with disabilities and integrate this talent pool better in their workforce. Corporate Connect, as Ramesh mentioned, acts as an interface between Able Plus program and the industry. We, by virtue of having worked with 500 plus companies till date and incorporating their feedback back to the program, have developed a framework for disability inclusion in line with industry requirements. We provide an array of services under the framework ranging from sensitization workshops, which focus on building awareness around disabilities and address the unconscious bias. Role mapping exercise is an important step in which we map the roles in a company vis-a-vis disability and provide solutions for workplace adaptations. Accessibility being another major challenge, we conduct accessibility audits of the premises and provide solutions to make the infrastructure barrier-free. We have solutions related to facilitating communication with the speech and hearing impaired employees, which include sign language interpretation, sign language workshops, etc. Policy support is another area where we work with companies. We provide consulting services for equal employment opportunity policies, work from home policies for disabled workforce, rights of persons with disability act, etc. Last but not the least, our framework also includes support in hiring and onboarding youth with disabilities, where we work very closely with the companies to not just ensure that they hire them, but also they retain them, and how to build an inclusive culture that becomes a paramount to ensure that they have a continued journey. Next slide, please. I quickly want to share a case study with one of our partners. This is a leading multinational bank. We started working with them in 2018 with the goal of disability inclusion in workplace. We have done a full life cycle of services with them, ranging from role mapping to accessibility audit, sign language workshops, etc. Under the endeavor, we have successfully placed 40 candidates in different roles. Today, I'm happy to share that we work in length and breadth with them. Next slide, please. A partnership with this organization saw new areas of engagement like dedicated volunteering programs for our youth. We saw employees from overseas providing training to our youth virtually under the volunteering programs. We have a mentoring program where employees of the bank spend significant time with the student and are more engaged and committed to see each one of them succeed. So they provide one-on-one mentoring. Here, the engagement with every student is much longer than a volunteering program. This is just one of the many success stories of disability inclusion in workplace. We feel we've come a long way, but there's still a long road ahead. I hope this story inspires many today, and we get to create more of such success stories together. Last, I want to thank you all for joining us today, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you, and over to Abhirami. Thank you.
Thank you, Silky, for the talk. Now we shall begin the inaugural session. I take immense pride in introducing the dignitaries who are going to inaugurate the center with their inaugural speech. First, I would like to call upon the Executive Director and Head of Learning and Organizational Development of JP Morgan, Mr. Ravi Kodukula, to deliver his inaugural address. Over to you, Mr. Ravi.
Okay, great. So I'll unmute myself. First of all, thank you very much, Abhirami and Ramesh and Silky. So since this is a Bangalore program, namaskara. And of course, the rest of the world, which has joined us early in the morning, a very good morning to you. It's a pleasure to be here, Abhirami, Ramesh, thanks for the invite. And as a partner in this program, I would love to share some of the work that we have done together. But first of all, a bit of brief about JP Morgan Chase in India. We are an equal opportunity employer. We are a global multinational, as you know. We value diversity in our employee populations across the firm and globally, and in India as well. The firm empowers all our employees to bring their full authentic self to work. And diversity in India largely manifests, as you know, in largely in most organizations as gender, but of late, over the last 5 to 6 to 8 odd years, we have seen diversity manifest itself in many other ways. And one of those key pillars of diversity is people with disabilities. So we have started our journey on this one over the last about 8 to 10 years in India. And here are some of the things that we have been able to achieve. In India, we have been hiring people with disabilities for the last 3 years now, more actively. We have targeted initiatives and channels in place to hire people with disabilities. Now, some of the initiatives that we have run, we have a program called Tech Connect, which is led by our technology teams, which helps identify our pipeline of people with disabilities. We train, we develop, and we develop them with technical skills and assimilate them into our technology organization. We have about 15,000 technology people in India and about 20,000 operations people in India. So that's just about 35,000 plus people. The other program that we have is the Autism at Work, which was developed roles and career paths for individuals within the autism spectrum. Accessibility is a business resource group that we run. We have a lot of diversity business resource groups. This is one of the business resource groups with over 3,500 members, which focuses on engagement, development, and empowerment of individuals with disability and caregivers within the firm. Over the last 8 odd years, we have seen an increase in India organizations' ability to enable a diverse workforce to excel, including people with disabilities. Some of the other aspects, which might seem natural and simple, but requires a lot of thinking and effort, are how our buildings and our workspaces in India are disability friendly. You may not really see many of them in India, but of late, yes, a lot of organizations are doing what needs to be done. For example, signage to include braille, disabled inclusive washrooms, level flooring, etc. We have new buildings coming up in all our 3 locations, that is Mumbai, Hyderabad, and Bangalore. And these are being built in line with disability accommodation needs. We use assistive technology where needed. Example, JAWS, speech to text software for the visually impaired. We have a team called ECAT, and that sounds pretty catty, but this team actually actively converts thousands of software, websites, and training courses to be in line with the Web Accessibility Guide to ensure inclusion of people with disability. We have a recruitment and training process in place to align with the business roles that employ people with disability. And that brings me to inclusion. I think this is one of the things that we most normally ignore. And the way I see the difference between diversity and inclusion is diversity is about counting the numbers. We have hired so many people, we have hired so much of recruitment, etc. What next? We've got to include the that are in now. And how do we do that? Because hiring is diversity, ensuring that people are successful and the rest of the co-workers in the ecosystem are also sensitive is a huge, huge, big thing for us. To this end, we train our managers and co-workers to help build this sensitization. Our commitment to inclusion extends to communities outside of the firm as well. Communities that we support through our philanthropic activities and initiatives. And we have collaborated with Youth for Jobs, our partner here, for the College Connect program. Through this collaboration, we have set up skilling centers in 17 cities. These centers train a youth with locomotor, speech, and hearing and visual disabilities. This helps them get jobs in the BFSI, logistics, and e-commerce companies like HSBC, Tech Mahindra, Allcargo, etc. About 1,100 students in the program in the future will get trained, and I'm happy to share that actually 546 have already been placed into jobs in this as a part of this program. One of the big challenges during placements is that companies still see inclusion as a nice thing to do. Well, we have moved the needle quite a lot from that stage where we were about a few years ago. We work with Youth for Jobs to put together business case studies for the BFSI and hospitality sectors, and are pleasantly surprised to see that 30 companies have expressed an interest in using these for an inclusive workforce. Just to summarize, we are making these strides, small strides maybe at present, but soon we will fill the ocean with these small little drops. I'm extremely happy for this opportunity to express my gratitude for the excellent work that Youth for Jobs is doing. And I'm extremely proud of the fact that JP Morgan is partnering with Youth for Jobs in this effort. Abhirami, back over to you. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm here to listen to the others. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Ravi. Thank you very much for the talk. Now, I would like to invite the Chief Ethics Officer and Head CSR, Safety and Sustainability at Titan, Mr. N.E. Sridhar, to deliver his inaugural address. Over to you, Mr. Sridhar.
Rajiv, do you see Mr. Sridhar? Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Very good morning. First of all, thank you for the opportunity for jobs. And I'm here to share on this very important subject of inclusion that's extremely dear to my heart for the last 3 decades. My own experience, a bit of working with SAP as an SAP partner, and of course, a couple of challenges what this is throwing up. I think let me share a bit about my own organization, Titan. When we started a business 30 years back, 35 years back, I think we started with this as part of the way we do business. whether it was employing people from the rural areas or from the underprivileged women or the differently abled, way back in 80s and early 90s. And the principle that we did, we never hired people from the industry. We said, if we have to do this, we'll do it this way only. We followed the same principle across all our plant locations. And in the formative years of my company, we hired as many as many youth from physically challenged, auditorily challenged, hearing impaired, and so on and so forth, visually challenged, and so on and so forth. We had at a point in time almost 250 of them. Of course, some of them have retired and moved on. And today we have around 445 of them, large part of them in our manufacturing locations, a few of them are retired also. The recent past, we are now trying to rejuvenate this whole thing and come back in a little more updated manner on which this whole subject can take off in the company in our expanded locations. We have, I mean, there are multiple recognitions. The President's Award we got some 45 times and stuff like that. But these are all just manifestations on how, if a company wishes and if we want, we can do it. I think moving on from there, in the recent past, what we have done, and as a CSR, I think what we have done is we invested a lot in this space. We have worked with 2-3 organizations, and over the last 4 to 5 years, more than 1,000 youth. We have focused a lot of them from the rural area, and these youth have been taken over, given skill training, got them placements, and almost 90 to 95% of them have been placed across Karnataka and even neighboring states also. We have done this in Karnataka and a bit in Tamil Nadu also. So the engagement and the investment doesn't necessarily got to be, got to be only located only within the organization. If we wish to do, we can do across. And I heard this wonderful story of what JP Morgan is doing. My own personal involvement in this, apart from the initial years when I was in the factory, when I was part of the recruitment team, we went to these NGOs, we went to these places. I think I've been part of many committees in which I have been involved in creating policies. One of them has been 4 years back, probably a little ahead of time. We created this wonderful policy on accessibility and inclusion. And that is something which we, I mean, probably we are very, very ahead of times those days, and we've just not seen the light of day in terms of solid implementation. We participated as a company with another organization to do job mapping of more than 65 roles in terms of what it means and how we can create real inclusion in the workspace. So many of these things, we have been working with the industry, with NGO partners, and trying to see what are those big changes with the government organizations to see how we can influence even policies and things like that. Coming to the current context, I think there are many policies which the government has created for the last few years. The Rights of People with Disability Act 16 and the rules that are specific mandates. In fact, it has created specific mandates for private establishments. Many provisions. But one is companies should establish an equal opportunity policy, should ensure people are not discriminated, display the policy, blah, blah, blah. And then there's a 5% mandate. All these things have already been laid out as early as 2016, maintain records of people, appoint a liaison officer, grievance mechanism, and then, of course, make all existing buildings accessible as per the standards by 2022, not far away, but we are nowhere near that. But what is more important is how organizations today are responding to this. And I think I'm extremely glad to be part of this VP team where there's a lot of work, not just work which has happened, but also, most importantly, I would say the passion, the engagement, and the capability what they're able to bring to the subject by working in many diverse spheres. I think, it is just not about just supporting or giving some lecture again. It's about collaborating and co-creating solutions in the space. A few examples, I think the way we worked with Samarthanam a couple of years back to build the capacity and even enhance the structures. Or even the example of last year, I keep quoting this about a very young entrepreneur who created this business called Mitti Cafe, giving work to more than 110 persons with disabilities, including support in COVID times and so on and so forth, establishing a successful business model. Or the work it's being done with APD on the horticulture side, on the livelihood side, and the recent one, Nursery on Wheels, I think, or even for that matter, the work and support which the SCP gave to AMBA. I think all of this gives a lot, not just hope, but also the fact that CPK can actually bring in solutions, work together with organizations, collaborate and co-create across any sphere, be it creating entrepreneurs or be it building capacity or capability, and also networking across various corporates. And today, the whole program about collaborating with for jobs, I think, more than 3 years back, SAP started working with them and supporting their 2018 the whole support what was given to the center in Bengaluru and all what has been happening the last 2 years. But I think the pinnacle of this is what is today. And I'm extremely happy because this is one area I was trying to do when I was doing campus recruitments in the mid-90s to see how we can get people into the companies to join. But I think this program is really coming at a very, very appropriate time. And this College Connect program, Able Plus, is I'm sure will go places. What is also surprising is, like what my co-speaker spoke about, the number of companies who are lining up to actually look at people from this space and who are actually trained are increasing by the day. And that too, in these days of where we have challenges and issues of employment, it's a welcome and a refreshing sign. Of course, in addition to grant funding, the company has supported Youth for Jobs to connect with employers, mentoring the youth and staff, and many other initiatives to improve the program efficiency and also refine their own volunteering engagement program for the partners in Bangalore. So I think with the unique blend of passion, commitment, and commitment, there are many, many fellow colleagues in SVP who are leading these efforts, and I'm sure this will just multiply in the years to come. Of course, one of the important things, and I heard Mr. I can also speak about the biggest challenge today, and I have seen this across many organizations, has been the challenge of how do we look at job mapping, and most importantly, I have seen organizations where perhaps this does not take off is because of an absence of workplace solutions. And I think today, what I heard both talk about is workplace solutions in terms of creating enabling policies and implementing them is one very critical area of success. And I'm sure as we go along, we will work with partners like for jobs to enable this in organizations, and we already started doing this. I'm very happy to see that. Of course, these days of challenges, we are glad that we're talking about employment. And with committed and passionate people from SVP and Look for Jobs, I'm sure this project will go places. Thank you so much. I just thought I want to share one photograph. I'm not too sure whether I can share that, which is
just share on the screen, sir.
Which one? The photograph of JRD?
Yes, sir.
Okay. This photograph is, I was on this side of taking this photograph. Just to tell you, in the year 1991, when I joined the company, at that point in time, Mr. Tata came to Titan to inaugurate one of those buildings, one of those broad project areas. And the only statement he left, of course, all these people who you see in the photo, some of them, of course, are left, are all people who have kids of this age who are working. He just said only one thing. He just said, don't treat these people like disabled. Treat them like any other normal employee. We are 90. And I think I will never forget the statement. It is there in our visitors book. I don't know for sure because it's not visible today. But this is what he said. So I think the manner in which companies embrace this subject has to be the way they embrace any other subject. It is just incidental. They are called this, but they are probably better or even much more able than any one of us. Thank you so much. I thought I'd share this photograph. It's something which I cherished for the last 30 years. I just pulled it out and I thought I'd share this. Thank you so much for this opportunity and look forward to engaging with you all and Look for Jobs. And good luck for this Able Plus program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sridhar. Thank you for the kind words. Now, we would like to invite the State Commissioner of Persons with Disability of Karnataka, Mr. V.S. Basavaraju, to deliver his inaugural speech. Over to you, Mr. Basavaraju.
Good morning to all of you. And first of all, congratulations for Youth for Job for this. They're coming into Karnataka, so happy. This has been very, very great opportunity for the state of Karnataka. First, like I'm sure all the previous speaker spoke very well what has been happening and what needs to happen in the future. First and foremost, I want to congratulate Abhirami and of course Mrs. Meera Shenoy and Ashok and all others for this great program. And I've been involved personally in this journey for the last 3+ decades, and I know how
challenging and how difficult to take any of this program to a really kind of a level where we are today. First and foremost, I would say that we have really come in a long way, and of course, there a lot needs to be done. And like previous speakers said, there may be policy and there may be, kind of intent. But I think what I really look at it, there is certainly a lack of knowledge and skills by a wide spectrum of people. So I think this kind of program would certainly wider the understanding and what the people with disability can contribute in the in the productivity of our nation. So I would say this would go a long way. And as all of you know that the biggest challenge for all of us is to engage the universities. And I'm sure Youth for Job will do something in the days to come to engage the university, because volume can only come and the sustainability can only come when the universities start take ownership and start take responsibility. College Connect is great, but I think we need to do some little bit of work at the university level. And I'm sure, so together we can do something to connect at least a few universities and how we could develop some kind of roadmap so that a large number of people can benefit. And most importantly, I'm so glad that a lot of indigenous knowledge is being developed, because otherwise we were always, dependent on a lot of knowledge from the West and other developed countries. But I think more and more the solutions are locally available these days. It's been excellent. But the only thing is we have a challenge of how to disseminate, how to get to the right people. And I think we need to really see how we could address it together with the organization like Youth for Job and the government, so that a large number of people could really benefit. And what I really see in the days to come, see, all of you know that people with intellectual disability, people with blindness and low vision and all of them, somehow we have found some answers, and they are already in system. So you look at it, for example, many of the IAS cadres. So we see either locomotor disability or the people with blindness are now taking the lion's share. So I think we are left out on the category of intellectual disability, because that is going to be more and more in the days to come. So I would really urge Youth for Job to really see whether they could come up with some kind of a specific program for them, so that section also really get the benefit of the statutory laws and the benefits, all that. And more importantly, for this particular category, I believe that we need to engage a little bit more closely with the carers community, particularly the parent groups. And I'm sure they could contribute quite a bit, because many of the parents are all in the corporate world and many of the other sectors. So therefore, they will really act as a resource for us. And once if they can take ownership, and if they get connected in the form of volunteers, in the form of support group, whatever that's feasible. So probably the sustainability and the growth can be much faster, and we should be able to do much more than what we are doing it today. And of course, always need to say that technology is an enabler. I think the biggest advantage for people with disability today is the technology. More and more people are started, depending on technology in the disability space. But a lot more work needs to happen around that, particularly to shoot different kinds of disability, because the kind of mere varieties that what we have, all of you know that there are 21 different types of disability. The suitability and adaptability and the tools and the techniques, that is something that we need to really start work towards it. I'm sure all the leadership of the corporate world will realize and try to put some resources around that also, because unless we don't have appropriate tools and appropriate technology, the sustainability and the reach becomes a huge challenge. So I'm sure people will really start to focus that area in the days to come. So I'm sure Pratik is going to speak a little while by now, and Pratik will tell us like what government of Karnataka and Pratik and all of us are doing some work, so that the informations are there all over. But the challenge is when people want to use it, they're not available in a particular place. So I think there is a need for us to really see how we could get those information in a format, in a usable format, in a easily and accessible way, so that the people not only under your program benefit, even people across the country can benefit many different ways. That would be a great contribution. And of course, like previous people said, workplace solutions is an ongoing effort, because what works in one particular place and work with one disability need not work for the others. But nevertheless, some of these principles are the same, and we need to really see how we can share some of the learnings in a more focused way, so that your work will really benefit large number of people. And I think biggest requirement is also the educational setup, because we have to start build our people with disability rights from the young age, for the future opportunities and the future, because we want them to be a contributing members. We want to be with dignity, and we want them to really look at how they can become role models, how they can become more productive. So that's the role that as the government wishes to play. And I'm very happy to connect with Youth for Jobs in any way. My office as State Disability Commissioner can play a role in enabling their work with industries or sensitizing people, or producing the required policies and notifications. We are very happy to do that, because we are committed that people with disability must get equal opportunity. And I'm sure all of you must have been seen not only the all this listed down what needs to happen in Rights of Persons with Disability Act 2016. If you would have seen the latest, the national education policy, a lot has been said how our higher education is going to adopt, and how every teacher, irrespective of any teacher education program, will go through how to support children with disability. So we have been trying to do our best in terms of influencing policies, and proactively trying to do whatever we could do. But the government is always a large organization, and a huge challenge in terms of really getting sensitized the people who are supposed to provide the support. So the level of understanding continue to be a huge challenge for us to give a right skills and right platform for them to really gain those skills and really do whatever they could do from their side. So very, very happy to be part of this group, and I'm continue to engage with Youth for Job, and we will see how best we could do in our country, so that we not only sort of develop the required support system. So in the days to come, I think many other people also can learn from us. So thank you so much for this opportunity. Look forward to work with you in the days to come. Over to you.
Thank you so much for the speech, Mr. Basavaraju. Now I would like to invite the founder and CEO of Youth for Jobs Foundation, Ms. Meera Shenoy, to deliver her inaugural speech. Over to you, Ms. Meera.
Thank you, Abhirami. It's good to be here for the launch of our College Connect program with our partners, JP Morgan and social venture partners, and the local government. We in Youth for Jobs feel stronger having the various companies who come on a Monday morning and all of you by our side. When I started Youth for Jobs 8 years back, after working in senior government positions, consulting with the World Bank and the UN, we wondered what should our focus be. Our vision statement which we set was that every youth with disability should have access to education and employment opportunities. And our mission statement was with all stakeholders on board. So what have we done in these 8 years? We began by skilling less educated youth from rural areas, because I believed that was the need of India, and linking them to entry-level jobs. Post-COVID, when all our skilling products and services have gone online, we have scaled from 18 states of India to 22, including Jammu and Kashmir and the remote areas of the Northeast. Just to give you an idea of the scale at which we operate, to one e-commerce company, we have linked 700 speech and hearing impaired alumni of ours across 6 states. As we skilled the youth with disabilities in our training centers, we realized that companies needed our support to discover the ability in disability. Every time they asked us a question, when, how, what, we put in a service which my colleague spoke about. Today, all these services are online and in high demand. They help the youth to be productive when he joins a company, and the companies to realize that there's a business benefit in hiring from this alternative labor pool. As our company networks grew stronger, companies asked us for educated youth with disabilities, and we did not have any at that point of time. That's when we thought about the College Connect program, which we rolled out with the support of JP Morgan. This program today is, which has started with a request from all of you here, is now in the southern states with an immersion approach. Now we are today in Karnataka and Maharashtra. We work closely with the universities and colleges. And as my colleague pointed out, we have placed almost 600 youth who are educated to date. In the last 2 years, while we drew the contours of the program, we realized that if we need to bring sustained change in this space, as the commissioner also pointed out, it is not enough just to do skilling. So along with our online skilling, we designed a series of webinars for the educators and the trainers. These webinars dealt with a series of topics, right from how do you enroll or register youth with disabilities in your colleges, because if they don't get this higher education, quite often they run into a career block, about the act, technology, the use of technology, and several other areas. These have become so successful that we have over 800 people registering, not just from India, but across Southeast Asia and the Middle East. This has now made us a system changer wherever we work. And I'm glad that today we are in Bengaluru. We do this work believing in the potential of the poor and the disabled, using technology wherever we can, both for improving learning outcomes and for transparency. I have a young team. You can see them on the screen, and they share my passion to do an impact at scale. Every time we meet a challenge, I tell them to remember that every youth with disability whom we skill and place in a job takes the entire family out of poverty in a sustained manner. And enough impact studies on our own work indicate this. I'm happy to tell all of you that just last week, our work came out in a Harvard case study, and we won several awards, national and international. Last year, we were the Asia winners of the MIT's most prestigious award, which is the Inclusion Innovation Challenge. I think what this does is gives us courage that we are moving forward in the right direction. The work is challenging, as all of you know, and we certainly cannot do this work alone. We need support of every one of you here. Parents and youth with disabilities who are listening in, please enroll into our classes. Companies, we need your support in several ways. You can volunteer with us in building content for trainings, train our trainers, suggest technology which improves learning outcomes, hire from us, plan mentorship program. I just want to tell you a little bit about the mentorship program. We started this in Delhi with a multinational bank for our visually impaired youth. Over 2 years, we tweaked the program to make sure that it works. Of course, our youth with visually impaired benefited because they come from rural areas and tier 2 towns. But the company found that its employees benefited enormously. So the board requested us to scale this mentorship program across the country to about 70 to 80 youth with visual impairment. Universities and colleges, as the commissioner said rightly, please join hands with us to listen to the stories of our change in the neighboring states and help us to do better in your state. And governments always support us in a myriads of ways. With Mr. Basvaraju as the commissioner here and with his kind of dedication to this space and his work in 3 decades, I know that we can get lots of good ideas from him. We are committing to you, sirs, that we will work to make sure that all the ideas are implemented and to make Karnataka a model state for youth with disabilities. Let me thank our partners, JP Morgan, for believing in us and giving us the space to make mistakes in a pioneering program which has no cut and paste solutions, and therefore build a robust template for scale. I want to personally thank the SVP with a special mention of a few individuals like Shashi, Usha, Jayashree, KG, and Sanjana. Thank you for bringing this program to Bengaluru and holding our hand throughout. And of course, the Commissioner for being with us on a Monday morning, and every one of you. I'm sure that all of us together will work to leave behind an inclusive Bengaluru, an inclusive India, and an inclusive world. Thank you. Over to you, Abhirami.
Thank you, Ms. Meera, for the wonderful speech. Now that the tempo of the event is all set, let's begin the panel discussion on the topic, employability, employment, and inclusion of persons with disabilities. I request the founder and CEO of AFT Labs, Mr. Pradeek Madhav, to moderate the panel. Over to you, Mr. Pradeek.
Thank you, Abhirami. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for inviting me to moderate this panel. First of all, welcome Youth for Job to Bangalore. Congratulations on the phenomenal work which you do. Thank you to SVP and JP Morgan for supporting this program. The topic which we are discussing today is employability, employment, and inclusion of persons with disability. Before I introduce the panelists, I'd like to thank the organizing committee. I know you have put together a wonderful event. We usually thank you at the end of it, but I just want to take this opportunity to thank all of you upfront for putting us together. Let me welcome the panel. First of all, Arshad is the head of Fidelity. Morning, Arshad. Welcome to the discussion. Devesh, who's the Director of IT, Engineering IT, and Exec Sponsor of Intuit Ability Network. Welcome, Devesh. Good morning. Chris Shankar, who's the Group Head, HR, Infosys.
Hi, good morning.
Morning, Shankar. Welcome.
Good morning.
Kshitija, who's the MD of Corporate Citizenship Program at Accenture. Welcome, Kshitija.
Morning. Thanks, Prateek.
And Dr. Surendra, who's the Associate Professor of Bangalore University. Welcome, Dr. Surendra, for the discussion. I have to tell you the secret that we have a hidden Accenture, cohort in this panel. So I work for Accenture. Arshad did as well, and Kshitija is continuing to work for Accenture. So just want to tell you the hidden secret, not by design, but just as we are together. Well, few administrative stuff. We have almost 40 minutes for this panel. We will definitely take few questions at the end. So if any participant who have any questions, please type it in the chat window as we go through the discussion, and we'll be happy to take few at the end of it. Request to panelists, we have immense amount of experience among all of you. Last I calculated, or put together, all the organization employ more than 1 million people. So this panel represent a workforce of more than 1 million people. This panel also represent, and thanks to Dr. Surendra, who Bangalore University has an affiliation of 600 plus colleges. So it's really a power-packed panel from our people representation. I also want to tell you why this topic of employability is very, very important. And few stats which some of us know, but just want to put it on the table to for all of us to agree and understand and be aware why this topic is so important. The unemployment rate in India for people with disabilities, 70 to 75% people, 70 to 75%. So 75% of people with disability who should be employed are not employed today. It's a large workforce which is looking for opportunities. In terms of economics, this all translate to GDP degrowth of 5 to 7%. So we are leaving behind the growth of 5 to 7% by not employing these many people. Globally, if you compare US, so while we employ 25% of people with disability, US is not doing too great. So they only employ 31%. So it's not only an India problem, it's a global problem we are discussing today. Yeah, with these stats, I'd like to welcome everyone to the panel. My name is Prateek, and I represent an organization called Assistive Tech Foundation. ATF, our belief is to use technology as a game changer to help people with disability. Basraj sir were talking about the program, which we are developing a digital infrastructure to help people with disability in rural areas, partnering with government. Through our 11 startups, we've been able to touch 1.6 lakh people with disability. So that's the organization I represent. I'd like to start by requesting Arshad to give us perspective on how Fidelity approaches the inclusion. What's your vision as an organization? What's your goal to employ people with disability? So over to you, Arshad.
So Prateek, first of all, thank you very much for hosting the panel as well. And thank you for everyone for joining this session. There are two people I do want to call out who've been the real force behind pulling this together, which is Shashi and KG. And I don't, they are not appearing on this session today, but thank you, Shashi, for your passion, and KG, yours as well, for pulling all of us together in this noble cause. And finally, welcome to Youth for Jobs to Bengaluru, and I'm sure you'll make a big impact as well, as you've done with the rest of the country. Coming to your question, Prateek, on this particular dimension, I think it's a journey for us as much as it is a journey for everyone else. And I think everybody's trying to figure out what is the fastest and the best way to make an impact. As you rightfully said, the challenge is huge and the opportunity is huge. I think you got to look at it as like an opportunity and not as a challenge. Because you can tap these individuals. In my experience in the past, what I have found is when you actually engage this particular cohort of individuals, you not only see an impact and destroy a lot of the myths that typically exist in the corporate worlds, but you also make a difference to the ecosystem in which they actually come in, which is our corporates, which is our employees and associates, and they have a much wider level of impact. So from that impact perspective, it's been amazing. At Fidelity, we have also been looking at this and working on this very deliberately. I like the presentation that Ramesh made. It'll be surprising to know that a lot of times, we generally tend to take things for granted, and disability is not only, most of us think about disabilities when it's visible. And I think increasingly, like Basavaraju sir said, there is a lot more to be done on the invisible disability side as well. I think the first thing we got to do is do an assessment of our facilities to make sure that we are inclusive. It starts with simple things like, when we did our assessment in our facility a couple of years ago, the first thing was to understand, do we have ramps in our basements where the cars actually drop off employees? Do our turnstiles, are they wide enough to let wheelchairs actually to get through those facilities as well? Is there braille access available at every points of intervention, whether they're doors, lifts, leaflets, security pamphlets, etc.? And surprisingly, you will find there are a significant amount of gaps in that. So I think the first step is to start with candidly, looking at yourself and saying, are we ready, even with the basic inclusivity context that we need to have? And I think the second thing is, like everything else in the world, you got to break the problem down into smaller steps. My simple suggestion always to tackle the big problem or the opportunity and grab it is to say, if every team hires one individual, you would have actually hired significant amount of people on board and actually made the problem small enough to be tackled, but the opportunity large enough to be actually addressed. So those are some of the things that we are doing. We are very focused on making sure our job roles now are very well defined. That does not exclude anyone with disabilities. Our facilities are far more inclusive. Sensitization trainings to make sure people understand that this is something they have to consciously think about. And not only look for people who look like them, but also have a much wider net. And to make sure that our sourcing strategy also includes people with disabilities as well, which generally left to itself, given the evolution, does not have it. So those are the things that we're doing, Prateek, from a Fidelity perspective.
Well, thank you, Arshad. I love the way you say it, treat it as an opportunity, not as a challenge. So thank you for giving that perspective. David, you have been leading the Intuit Abilities Network for a while. So give us your perspective on what's your approach of inclusion and to really increase the opportunity for people with disability in your organization.
Sure, thank you for that question. First of all, congratulations to Youth for Job, and good morning to everyone who's attending this session. It is a privilege to be here and be part of this great occasion. And I can definitely see a great future in how, especially being in Bangalore with all the tech companies. I think, we should have been in Bangalore first, but at least I think we are on the right track. So, first, what I would say is, I have been lucky to be part of an organization like Intuit, where diversity is not like a new strategy; it is part of our culture, right? So it is, and not just people with abilities; it's across the board, right? All kinds of diversity in the company, and the company sees value in diversity. There's business value behind this, and that is what makes things sustainable. So driving an initiative like that in a company like this makes it much easier. One of the things we've pushed for, which Harshad also mentioned, is around workplace. Those are the first things, right? Whether you have a single employee who's disabled or not, the workplace has to be built ground up, having that in mindset. So our workplace team, they think design, thinking disability in mind. Now, every location of us, especially when we have occupied the full building, it's a little bit much easier to do. But if we are occupying a floor, then we can do best efforts at that point. Hello, am I still there?
Yeah,
okay.
we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, so I think facility-wise, we have definitely we have. Okay, I think for some reason I felt like I was out of the. So facility-wise, I think it's very important. That's your foundation. You want to get that done. The other aspect is, we are constantly looking for talent, right? So it is not like we are trying to do a favor by giving job opportunity. We will go where the talent is. And I think, I'm going to be a little bit biased. Tech industry is probably the best place for people with disability to come in, right? Because one, it's easy to learn. Most of the tools are available for free. And it's easy to learn. All you need is a phone or a laptop and you're on to business. There's all kinds of courses available, self-learning that's available, which makes this industry very, very easy to get in. I also feel that, if we try to tackle this as an individual company, it's a much harder problem. I think there is a very important need for all companies to come together. And Harshit kind of mentioned, where, each team hires one person. I think that's where I also feel the entire, whether it's Orca companies or across Bangalore, if we come together, it's a much larger problem that can be solved in a very united front. We at Intute, we do a lot of things around awareness. We've ran a lot of awareness program across managers, sensitizing employees. We have hosted Accessibility Summit, where we invite external companies, 200 plus external participants, several speakers. I think this is all towards awareness, but our ultimate goal is, how do you create employment? This is the hard problem. And we can talk more about that, but I think that's what we are going after. It's one, and it is a journey, and we want to make sure we get past the initial part of the journey and create employment and create direct benefit for employees. And I feel there is a big hidden talent pool that companies have really not tapped into. And I think there is a lot of work that needs to be done. And I will be constructively dissatisfied until we achieve that. So
wonderful. Well, thank you, Vivesh. Thanks for sharing your thought process and the way you approach. I love when you said it's a part of the business, right? Because a lot of organization, there is business and then there is a include D&I practice, right? And unless we integrate that into as a core part of our business, it doesn't work best. Shankar, you have workforce at Infosys and so many campuses. How do you manage? How do you see this whole D&I employability, employment, and what's your framework to increase and include more and more people with disability in your workforce?
Okay, good morning, everybody, and a pleasure to be here. Firstly, thank you for kind of calling me. And I'm really thankful to Youth for Jobs for taking up this initiative in Bangalore. Yeah, so I'm sure this will be a roaring success. I think Infosys has been a kind of a great supporter of people with disabilities. We kind of were the original founding kind of signatories to the Business Disability Forum many years ago. And I think one of the things that we've been trying is to ensure that we look at 3 or 4 areas in which we can build, and increase the number of people with disabilities in the company. I think the first one is, as somebody mentioned, it's about access. Yeah, so trying to see if wherever we need, if access is a problem, look at it, and therefore physical access, digital access. So therefore, the whole amount of access is one big area that we're really working on. The second key area is sensitization. I think it is about, in the end, it's all about sensitizing existing employees, sensitizing managers, everybody about how this is. So therefore, that's very important to create an inclusive workplace. So I think it's not just important just hiring people with disabilities, but we have to ensure that they are fully integrated. So I think the sensitization is very, very important. The third is to really ensure there is this match of skills with jobs. Yeah? So therefore, that has been, in a way, in the tech industry, that's been a little bit of a challenge for us. Either you need an engineer or you need graduates with some experience, and that in the past has been tough. And I think that's a big area where I think Youth for Jobs will come in. But that's other big area. I think managing the skills, training people to the jobs is something that is important to us. And I think this is this is a big area for us to work with all of you. I think at the end of all of this, we believe that if you look at it, most of the people you've hired are in the mainland delivery jobs. They're not in kind of any other support jobs. Most of them are in mainland delivery jobs. So therefore, they're integral. So therefore, integrating them to the business and to the business operations is very critical. So I think these are the 4 key things we've been looking at. I think we've been very committed to this. We've been signatories to the the United Nations Human Global Compact, and looking at all the human rights kind of needs there. And we've also been very, from a long time back, we've been focusing on having a very strong code of conduct, which really talks of being an inclusive workplace and to ensure that we increase opportunities for all. And that's what we've been doing. I think over the years, we've tried to keep on doing it. I think there are some challenges we've had, but I think this is a great initiative now with Youth for Jobs. And I think that will be a phenomenal boost to many of us in how we can improve, provide livelihoods and increase our workforce. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Shankar. I'm aware of a lot of good work which Infosys has done in past and love to learn more from you. Kshitija, Accenture has been forefront of many such initiatives which has helped more and more people with disability to come into workforce. What's so unique about Accenture's framework?
First of all, let me congratulate Meena and the Youth for Jobs team. I think, this is a much needed initiative, and focusing on, ensuring that the supply meets demand in the easiest way, I think is really the first step for both parties to be cognizant of each other's, needs and what can be done to it. So thank you, and thank you for having me on the panel. I think, really what, and I think some of the other panelists have said, it's really about whether you believe in the mandate, whether you believe in that agenda, and whether it starts from the very top. So I think for us, it's like the saying that it's embedded within our business. As a talent-led organization, for us, everything is about people, and our people play that role in delivering value to our clients or to our communities. And we genuinely believe that each person brings, those unique abilities or skills, whether they have the talent, whether they have the strength to make a contribution. This is validated by our research as well. When we're talking about, we have research which is called Getting to Equal, the Disability Inclusion Advantage. And that's told us time and again that when companies create inclusive culture for persons with disabilities, everyone benefits. Companies that embrace these best practices for employing and supporting people with disabilities, those companies actually outperform their peers. So it makes perfect business sense. But what you need to make sure that you can get onto that journey and create an inclusive career, it has to start with leadership commitment. It has to be supported by policies. So I think for us, our commitment is public. I mean, with the ILO, we signed, Global Business and Disability Charter. In India, for example, we were one of the founding members with CII, to sort of look at the CII India Business and Disability Network. So I think for us, it's out there. It's something that we are committed to, and we look at it holistically. Whether it's let's take sort of 4 verticals that we believe in. Employment, right? Are we looking at it as equal opportunities? When we say we're an equal opportunity employer, what do? Yes, all positions are open to all candidates, as long as they have the skills, the knowledge, and the willingness to perform the specified roles. That's really then no grounds for refusing anyone the opportunity. So our processes are made accessible for people with disabilities. the PWD CVs are looked at without the typical disability to type of role mapping. We look at it and say all roles can be performed by everyone. But then what do you do to set them up for success? So internally, we have the next pillar, which is enabling, what we call, the enabling framework. Are they physically able to work in our facilities? So all 37 facilities are compliant with the 200 plus accessibility standards. We make adjustments for all our new offices. We look at medical cabs as an example. Technology, of course, which everybody's touched upon. Our websites, our tools, are they fit for purpose accessible assistive technology devices? We have an entire research lab called Tech Labs, which works towards solutioning for people with disabilities. And, for example, you may have heard of Watch, which was a very simple solution, which was about helping the hearing impaired listen to music. Attitudinally, what do we do for enablement, sensitization training? That's internal. That's about making sure that we can employ people, we can enable them, and we can, engage our people to make sure that when a person joins a team, they are mainstream just as comfortably as anybody else. But I think it's also important to think about us as being part of the ecosystem, which means what do we do to be able to support the supply side of it? So our Skills to Succeed program, which is under CSR, looks at strategic partnerships with nonprofits, not just in the area of the relevant kind of skilling. We also look at how does demand meet supply. Thinking about, is our skilling resulting in jobs? There is one particular Skills to Succeed program called Hamari Vani, where it's such a simple IVR-based system which reaches out to rural India as well. And we have, I think, a reach of about 70% of Indian states. We're getting a call per minute. It's a simple networking platform that a person with disability can call in. It's a missed call, and they can then peer-to-peer share their experiences in the employment space, look at welfare schemes. So I think it's important to think of ourselves as an ecosystem. It's important to think of ourselves as being able to support both supply and demand. And I think that's really what's been our journey. By no means are we, saying that we've arrived at a spot where we're comfortable, in that journey, but I think we've made a start.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing wonderful initiatives as Accenture has. So moving on, we've heard the corporates talking about their point of views, their initiatives. Let me request Dr. Surendra, who comes from Bangalore University, share a few thoughts. Surendra, tell us about what has been your approach in training some of these students, preparing them to have better skills while you work on their talents.
Yeah, thank you. And first of all, good morning to one and all. And I'm grateful to the Youth for Job for thinking of opening a branch or a chapter in Karnataka. That's a very good initiative. And so it's very great that the Youth for Job has been doing, and thank you for giving me opportunity. Well, as you all know that the Basuraju sir, the commissioner, also rightly pointed out that it's very important to need to connect to the college and universities. Because if you see the number of gross enrollment ratio, in general, it is very less. And when compared to the differently able, it is even lesser. I think less than 5% of the +2 students are trying to get into graduation or post-graduation or even higher education. So in this kind of scenario, universities and colleges play a very important role in terms of not just increasing their percentage in the graduate level, but going beyond this. So generally, Bangalore City as such has two visions as such. One is basically empowering the differently able. That is one foremost thing we do. Second thing is making the education inclusive for all the marginalized communities, in which the person with disabilities also plays a very important and a very critical role. So basically, we have been playing a very important role, colleges and university, in terms of catering to these needs. So we also have been conducting several programs. More than that, first we have established what we call empowerment cell for differently abled. I think there are very few universities like Jawaharlal universities or other universities have this kind of exclusively focused cell which caters to the needs of the differently abled. So in that context, we have been conducting several programs, awareness programs, or whether it is ensuring some kind of skills for them. So universities have collaborated with a lot of NGOs and other organizations who have come forward to conduct several programs. So that is one conducting of programs, awareness is one issue which we try to focus. Apart from this, also the university has been very kind in terms of providing them the necessary infrastructure. Ultimately, because infrastructure is one of the major challenges. For us, two major challenges. One is infrastructure and creating jobs for them. I think as we all know that many of the differently able get into the government sector. They think that the government sector is the only area where they can get a lot of job opportunities. They always believe that there's only less scope for them to get into the private sectors or the corporate companies because of the skills. So in that context, what the empowerment cell in Bengaluru City or in colleges have been trying to do is that we want to ensure that communication skills, language skills, and IT skills. So these are the skills in which they are lacking because majority come from the poor background and the rural areas. In that context, I think these kind of skill development is very important. So infrastructure building is because only few buildings in the university or colleges generally which has been funded by the public institutions or the government you can find, they're differently abled. So in that context, I think building the infrastructure is one of the major challenges for university and colleges, and that's where the youth for jobs and the corporate companies can also focus on. And the second most important thing is creating jobs. As I told you that everybody looks into the government jobs. I think now it's been trying out. It's high time that the jobs are created in the private sector. There are jobs, but many times it is not accessible to them. They are not aware of it. I think that's where the youth for job can really connect with the education institutions like whether it's college or university and with the corporate companies and the private companies. So they can act as a bridge between these two sectors and clearly transform the lives of the different people. Last point is to emphasize that what exactly the universities and college expect from a student's point of view, from the corporate companies and the corporate sector is that first thing is the jobs. I think jobs is what ultimately all the education which they try to do is to gain advantage. They are talented, I think, which all of us are equally well aware of it, but still they do not have the opportunities, they do not have the avenues, they do not have the access. That is one. Second thing is infrastructure is very important. So as I told you that most of the public institutions infrastructure is lacking, whether it is having a proper ramp or having a disabled toilet facilities or having access to libraries, accessing to e-resources. So that's where the infrastructure is lacking. I think despite the NAC, that is which accredit all the universities and colleges, they have made it very clear that the universities and colleges will be graded also on the parameter of how differently able friendly are the universities and campuses. So that's where the infrastructure is lacking, and the infrastructure can come in only through the corporate companies or the private companies can also chip in, because we cannot expect all the time the government to play an important role in this regard. Then the third important thing is internship is very much important. I think the different able students need to be exposed to the industries, because in every syllabi or the courses have been prepared, always the question is how relevant is your course to industries. But it's high time that how industry is relevant to the differently able students or the course plan, that also becomes very important. So in this context, conducting and having an internship is also very important. All the top companies which are present here, I request them that you should throw open some kind of internship for the differently able students from different streams, because Bengaluru City has different streams, and even the colleges also have for different courses. So there are highly talented students but do not have the avenues. So internship could expose them to this kind of working conditions of the industries, which they might enhance more skills, gain more knowledge, they can share with the others. At the same time, they can also get employment opportunities there or else because of the internship which they have underwent. So that is very important, and skill is very important. Enhancing the skill becomes very important for these students. I think that's where the corporate companies and youth for job, before finding out the campus recruitments or these kind of jobs, are very important. These kind of placements are important, but before that, enhancing the skills is important, because without skill, I think they will not get you into any kind of placements or jobs. So skill development also becomes a very important aspect. So that's where I feel the universities and colleges have a major role, but I think the organizations like Youth for Job can really play an important role in bridging the gap between corporate sectors and the universities, so that we can actually, Bangalore City, just to add one few lines, Bangalore City has been organizing sports day, cultural events, celebrating different label day. All the things they've been exposed to different speakers, different achievers, all the things have been going on. But what exactly at the end of the day they ask for jobs. So that is where I think this Youth for Job can play an important and a critical role. And thanks for giving me this opportunity. So any questions or queries, I'll be ready to answer it.
Thank you, Dr. Surendra. I mean, very important points. Not only on the infrastructure, but giving them exposure through internships or some awareness visit to corporates definitely is a very, very important mechanism, to make them more employable. We've heard from corporates, we've heard from yourself, Dr. Surendra. While we all have done our bit, let me also tell you, we are far away, and some of the stats will, to put on the table. Public sector percentage of total percentage of people with disability as a part of total workforce. We're talking about 0.54%. 0.54% of the total workforce is a person with disability. That's in public sector. You spoke about private sector. We're talking about only 0.28%, and in multinationals, it's 0.05. So when we think about efforts being put together, we are so far away in terms of making that whole mark and increasing those percentages. So that's one part of it. Second, in terms of types of disability, and that's something which Basraju sir was talking about. While we know that locomotor disability, we have 65 to 70% people who are getting employed. We also have only 10% of visual impairment people who are getting employed. When you look at intellectual disability, it's less than 1% of them are getting employed. Now, all this cannot be made better by individual organization or individuals. So how do we collaborate? How do we co-create some of the solutions together to make this world and percentage better? So very quickly, it's open question to all the panelists, but if you can very quickly tell your thoughts, and some of the stuff which we can take it forward beyond this panel discussion, that'll be great.
Hey, Pratik, I'll just chime in. I'll also maybe put a point about your organization. I think the whole ecosystem has to develop. It is not one dimension that's going to help. All the dimensions have to come together. And I think what you're doing is amazing, which is the Assistive Tech Foundation, which is enabling startups that are focused on the disabled cohort is also something that we need to enable. We have to also enable, a big part of this is also breaking the myths at the management level as well. There is a myth that potentially productivity could be low, potentially career paths will be limited, potentially there is more effort that's involved. And frankly, in my experiences, whenever we have employed people with disabilities, none of that has actually come true. If in fact, if you remember, Kshitija, we did a program in Accenture and we set up a center near the Bangalore airport. We had 75 people who are almost blind or near blindness, and their productivity was higher than we ever got in any of our corporate centers within the organization. So I think breaking the myths and bringing more change agents together and actually helping lift the ecosystem is going to be more important. I think everybody has a role to play, but everything starts with a small step as well. That would be my input.
Thank you, Arshad. Yeah, completely agree with you.
I would add to that, I think ecosystem development, but I think it's equally important to connect, like what you said. Very important for an educational institution, for example, to understand what is actually required at the workplace. It's up to us, even as corporates, to be able to influence that, to be able to support it. So it has to be a close partnership between what they are training people for. You might find that in the world of the digital economy, a person with disability faces a double whammy. Completely sort of, left aside, not part of that journey. So it's important for an educational institution, a skilling organization, it's equally important for us as potential employers to be able to support that. Once they're in the system, then it is sensitization, as Arshad has said. It's a slow journey. It's about making sure that these are set up as success stories. These are proof of concept that, it doesn't matter if a person has a unique ability that they will bring in. It's just that they will do it differently. And that's what we need to enable.
Sure.
Can I just share a couple perspective from my side?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes, Devesh, please.
So, we've tried many things and we've had small successes, but how do you scale this? How do you make this sustainable, right? And some of our panelists touched on this. The biggest problem is supply side, because I can look at resumes, I can create internship for 1 or 2 people, but we need to figure out a way to scale this thing. So I think over the years, as I've observed, I felt like there is a 3-prong approach that needs to happen, right? The first is going to grassroots, right? Going to the grassroots and making people aware, parents and students, about the lucrative career that is there in something like being a coder, a software engineer. And I think, as the professor said, people are aspiring for government job and things like that. I feel there is great opportunity to get into the corporate, and I think the early education of people to telling them the possibility is going to add a lot more to the funnel. The second aspect that I see is how corporates can play a very active role in volunteering for training. I'm so glad Youth for Job has come up with something like this, where employees can go and pledge their time in volunteering for this. And given this whole pandemic situation, and we are all working from home, it has made even easier. If I had to tell people, hey, go to the other side of Bangalore and do this training, that's 1 day productivity gone right there.
Yeah.
But with this new medium, everything changes. So I think we should take advantage of this. And we are doing some beta testing with a handful of employees right now, teaching C, C++ for some of these students in the same program. And what we want to do is, once we learn from the successes of this, we want to scale this to the rest of the employee. And we do give our employees time to even go and pledge their time for a cause like this. So I think that is the second approach that I see. The third approach that I see is having, once the degree is completed, obviously, education syllabus and work syllabus are very different. The technology we use, these syllabuses, I have a big gap. So one of the things we could do is something like a rigorous 6-month training program followed by a internship in the company, right? Where I think the company should go to approach this with very selfless interest. Right? Even if I cannot absorb them for whatever reason in terms of head count and things like that, can I teach them employable skills where I prepare them for the world, for other companies to employ them? So I think if we go after these things, we will create a funnel, and that is what is basically going to drive some of these things. The other one aspect that I said is being also narrow focused. So one of the things we are now going to try is being narrow focused on, like autism, and see if we can create employment there and show successes. In fact, right in our office right now, we have a talk that's going on around autism to sensitize managers, employees, and the benefits and the skills they bring, the innovative skills, the unique thinking. I think those are the things we want to bring in the forefront right now. So those were my points.
Wonderful, Devesh. I think wonderful initiative, and I think it's so critical to go to the grassroots and create that awareness, because 70% of people with disability in India live in rural areas. So while we can talk a lot, in forums like this, it is important to really educate and create that awareness, Devesh. But thank you so much. It's very useful.
One thing I want to say is I believe in the 10,000 hour rule that Malcolm Gladwell in his book Outliers. If you spend 10,000 hours on something, you can become an expert. So I think if we can go to the grassroots and make these people put 10,000 hours, I know these are very extremely committed people. If channelized right, they will put that 10,000 hours and become the expert, and they could be the employees of the future in this space.
Wonderful. Yeah, sure. So I think in interest of time, I think I'm going to change the mode of the panel to be more rapid fire or a round. Last two questions which I have for all of you is one suggestion, since we in the audiences, we have so many educators, people who are training these people with disability to get better employed. And also we have students who want to get employed, get employed with your organization and many more organizations. What's one suggestion you have for colleges? What's one advice you have to students? We can start in any order.
Okay.
Shankar, why don't you go ahead?
Okay. No, I think, frankly, I think the one advice I would have for colleges and education institutes is number one, to really focus on a lot more of the life skills. Yeah, a lot more of, while there is some amount of domain and technical knowledge, but also various other things like communication, life skills. So therefore, that's something that will really help. And the other point advice I'll get to all students is that there are lots of opportunities. I think there are lots. I think the only challenge is really to ensure that there is the right match, and therefore that's where corporates and educational institutes can come together and provide the right forum. But I must say that the opportunities for them to do whatever, there's plenty, so that therefore they just have to really keep looking, and there'll be enough for them to really grow. Thanks.
Sure.
Let me go next. I would tell, focus on the right skills. Make sure that your content and your absolutely is relevant, updated. We have national education policy, great at a policy level, but we need to keep pushing and making sure that the implementation is there. One small thing that everybody can do, we celebrate persons with disabilities at every opportunity possible. So I think have Autism Awareness Day, have International Persons with Disabilities, to talk about that and showcase the talents of people with disabilities within your institute. Students, I would say, don't let your disability come in the way of seeking employment. If it just is that it makes you do certain tasks differently, explain how you will do that and what support you need to make sure you do that. And stay relevant. Keep learning. It's a whole new world for you all. I think in the COVID situation, that's even taught us even more so than ever. Take your training, get your certifications, just learn to earn and keep staying relevant. Growth.
Thank you.
Yes.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Shataja.
Okay, can I have a question?
I can.
Yes,
sorry.
Devesh, please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so my, I mean, it's on the similar line of Shataja, but what I would say is one of our education system always spoon feeds people, what we want to teach them is how to self-learn, because some of the new jobs are about continuous learning, so if early in their age, we teach them how to learn, self-learn, and which essentially is, teach them how to fish rather than giving them the fish. So if we can get that, there is plethora of knowledge base on the internet today. You can attend a Stanford course if you want for free, Harvard course, and there's a lot of resources out there. So teach them how to self-learn. So there is continuous learning rather than, just coming out from their syllabus, and because that may not be relevant. So that would be my piece of advice.
Thank you, Devesh.
Yeah.
Harshad?
I will just have one input is I would request the colleges to incorporate and bring in the corporates with our requirements early into the curriculum so that we can work together rather than this being a sequential process. Because I think if we get in early, we can then be far more committed as well.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think one suggestion from my end, since I come from a technology world and ATF is using technology as a lever, is to embrace technology in all parts of your life. Be in employment, it can change the whole perspective. Uh, at ATF, with 11 startups, we are already able to impact 1.6 lakh people with disability, not just in India, but outside as well. In a traditional non-profit setup, I can tell you it would take anywhere between 12 to 14 years, which we're able to do in 2 years. So that's the whole power of tech. But thank you, everyone. I think from a suggestion perspective, let me summarize.
Sorry, Pratik, I think Dr. Surendra wants to share his thoughts.
Surendra, please go ahead. Yes, please go ahead.
Thank you. See, I just wanted to tell that what exactly the students want from the corporate companies or the private company, because we have so many students in our campuses. So all they want is infrastructure, because technology has been very important. Technology, they can transform their life. But accessing technology is not very easy, particularly for the Braille softwares and other things, which are very expensive, and the public institutions cannot afford it. That is where the private companies or the corporate companies can chip in and provide the infrastructure.
Sure.
So providing infrastructure in terms of technology and other things can really transform their life. And I request that all the corporate companies should open up, not just for employment, at least for the training of skills. That is important. That becomes, and the last point quickly I want to make is that what is required in Karnataka itself, we have around 21 universities, 21 to 26 universities which are public funded by the government. So if you can collect the data of the 21 different kinds of disabilities in these universities, I think you can really focus which are the areas where they're lacking, because majority of the job goes to the locomotor disability or the visually impaired, but the other disabilities are not getting it. Why? Because we do not have the adequate data to train them and other things. So that's where the corporate companies and the universities, along with Youth for Jobs, can first come up with the networking or a data which can help us to identify what are the lacunas, where they're lacking, and then think of skills and then employability as an option. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sandhya. So just to summarize, work on life skills, right skills, awareness, like Shetaja, you said, stay relevant, focus on continuous learning, self-learning. Definitely, Asha, it's a very important point to invite corporate early in the life cycle of training and not just complete the training and then look for it. And the infrastructure part, networking part. Surendra, thank you so much for being a wonderful panel, all important points. I've learned so much being with you in the last 40 minutes. I'll request Ramesh to moderate the questions, and depending on how much time do we have, if you can just read out the question.
I think Pratik, I just sent a message in the chat box that I've asked them to send us the questions and we relay it back to the panelists, and then we will take the answers and send them back to us.
Okay, perfect. Okay, great. I think so. We will get back to you, but please feel free to type more questions on the chat, and Youth for Job team will be happy to take our perspective and give put theirs in addition to that and answer you back. But over to you, Ramesh. But once again, thank you everyone for being a wonderful panel and for your time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All the best. All the best to Youth for Jobs and everybody. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. True.
Thank you very much, sir. I request Rajiv to share his closing remarks.
Thank you.
Good morning, my dear colleagues, participants, panelists, and the dignitaries present for the launch. I'm Rajiv, and I'm a part of the Youth for Jobs College Connect team. The endeavor we wish to undertake is a challenging one because of the huge disconnect between education and employment. However, the insights we got today from the inaugural speeches and the lively panel discussion is an affirmation of the commitment of the panel and energized me, my team, and all the youth with disabilities present here. Youth for Jobs commits to work on bridging these gaps, and we are confident that a great future awaits the youth with disabilities in Bangalore. I would like to thank each one of you for being a part of it. See you again in the due course of the program, and support each other in this journey of inclusion. please feel free to reach out to us on rajiv@youthforjobs.org. Rajiv is with an I, R-A-J-I-V. Thank you once again, and have a good day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Pratik. Thanks for the moderation. We really appreciate it. And we thank all the panelists and SVP and for their support for this launch. And it went very well. And Dr. Surendra actually resonated with the thoughts of the CEO and founder, Madam Neeraj Shenoy. Very interesting, lots of insights that we did also. Thank you. And there were questions on the chat box, and we could not take it, but I will definitely ensure that they are all responded and they are answered. Thank you, and see you all. Bye. Have a great.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Madam, can I end the meeting? Thanks, Jacinta. Thanks, Vaishu, for your wonderful support and giving us the interpretation. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.